Well, Will Kaufman, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks ever so much for coming round.
My pleasure.
To my kitchen and on this special day, or almost 100 years to the day of Woody Guthrie's
That's right, tomorrow, the 14th of July, Bastille Day, which is a good day for an American revolutionary to be born.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's his centenary. There's a lot of stuff going on all over, well, really all over the world. There are celebrations going on for this whole year, but now it's getting into a particular crunch time because his centenary is tomorrow. You know?
Right, and while you're going around, you're very busy, I think,
yeah,
making sure everybody knows, gets the background.
That's right, yeah. Well, there's two things. There are these shows that I do, these, like, I call them live documentaries, where I travel around telling Woody's story, and you know, I don't pretend to be Woody, you know, I mean, I talk about him in the third person, but I tell the history of the times, the life in the times, and I sing the songs, and then I project onto the wall the, you know, period images and things like that. But I also wrote a biography of Woody Guthrie, which was published recently by the University of Illinois Press, called Woody Guthrie, American Radical. And it's, to my knowledge, the first political biography of Woody. And so that was just published, and of course that came out just in time for completely by coincidence, it came out just in time for the centenary, so there's a lot of notice in that. Apparently I'm in the Telegraph today or tomorrow, which is not a paper that
I'm going to have to borrow somebody else's and have a look.
Yeah, so if even the Telegraph is noticing stuff about Woody Guthrie, then he must have finally arrived in the British consciousness.
What inspired you to create this live documentary and put so much of your creative energy into spreading the word about his work?
Well, you have to understand what it's like to be an American abroad during the reign of the second George Bush. You know, it was a really tough time to be an American abroad, because it seemed to me that Bush and all the really belligerent voices around him, you know, Bush, Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, all these people who were going out of their way to flex their muscles and demonstrate to the whole world that America was on top, and America was always going to be on top, and either you're with us or you're against us, and all this kind of really ugly kind of, you know, they had commandeered the global bullhorn, and as an American abroad, it was really tough, because I knew there was another America besides the kind that these people were projecting, and I wanted to find another American voice, a voice of another America. And I began thinking more and more and more about Woody Guthrie. About I'd like to broadcast his voice in a way that can somehow counteract that ugliness and belligerence that seemed to represent what America is and what America sounds like. So that's what made me do it. It really was a political motivation and a sense of real anger at what was coming out of Washington at that time. And to be honest with you, you know, the onset of Barack Obama hasn't really changed anything. I think still Woody's music and his voice is still relevant as a corrective to official American pronouncements from either party, from the right, from the left, whatever. I think his is a good corrective to all that. You know.
Do you think, getting on to Woody's life, that the way you've described your immersion in his music sounds a little bit like perhaps how Woody came to the music himself? Didn't he? Tell us a little about his background. Didn't he have a very traumatic experience as far as his father's dealings were concerned, that maybe pushed him into his activism? I
think so. Yeah, he grew up in a place called Okemah, Oklahoma, born in 1912, and that's a state that's dominated by the Klan. It's a very, very right-wing state, and he comes from a right-wing family. His father is a small-town politician, but all real estate shyster, and supporter of the Klan. You know, there's no evidence he was actually a member of the Klan, but he was certainly a supporter of the Klan. So Woody grew up in that atmosphere of right-wing politics, racism, and he eventually, he absorbed a lot of that and then was sort of educated out of it the more that he saw when he fled the Dust Bowl and went into California and saw how the migrants were being treated. He's learning about labor relations for the first time. He's learning about racism, really, about how some of his own casual racist assumptions were being challenged when he got to California. He has a lot of help from people in the communist movement out there who is sort of educating him and raising his consciousness. And he begins to see music as a political weapon. I mean, he had a very canny publisher named Howie Richmond. And Richmond knew that there was a whole generation of children who were going to grow up one day. And it's good for them to grow up singing some of his clients' songs. So he had this really great idea to put some of Woody's songs in the school songbooks. Now, for instance, a song like "This Land Is Your Land," it was a politically sanitized version that went into the songbooks. It wasn't particularly, you know, he had 3 really killer anti-capitalist verses in that song that never made it into the school songbooks. So, as his colleague Irwin Silber, who used to edit Sing Out magazines, he said basically they took a revolutionary and turned him into a conservationist with This Land Is Your Land. So kids grew up singing This Land Is Your Land as this great patriotic ode to the American landscape and the American democratic spirit and all that. And it really wasn't until much later that a couple of singers began singing the restored version. And really, since the late 60s, it began to percolate up and you'd hear it more and more. But I think en masse, most Americans never heard that complete version until Pete Seeger and Bruce Springsteen sang it at Barack Obama's inaugural concert in January of 2009. They're there on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial singing the complete This Land Is Your Land into the face of the American president and American power. Singing it with lines like, "There was a big high wall there that tried to stop me. Painted sign there said private property, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me." You know. So, and then the next day the newspapers were saying, "Wow, I didn't know Woody wrote that." And, well, yeah, because a lot of people never heard that, you know,
Brilliant.
Political version, the anti-capitalist version. You know. Yeah.
I'm sort of surprised to hear that he had a publisher, given his copyright and ownership attitudes, which I thought were pretty strong. And
well, I think what happened was that Woody's family saved him from his own. I guess he could be his own worst enemy in many respects. But also, I know what you're talking about. You know, there's a sense that he didn't care about copyright because he would put into his early songbooks. Yeah. He would put things like, you know, this song is copyrighted under U.S. Patent 576854321459778, which means that if anybody plays this song without my permission, he sure is a good friend of mine, you know. And that comes out of the particular period when he is writing union songs and he wants to get these songs out and about on the picket lines and what have you. But there is another side to Woody. He really was. He at times he was interested in copyright. He often got into little spats when he was a member of the Almanac Singers, and they had a credo which was to publish all of their songs anonymously and collectively, just by the Almanac Singers. And Woody was against that. He said I did want to be known, you know, for the copyright there and everything. So he's complex, he's contradictory. If you read the biography, that's what he's like all through his life, complex and contradictory. So I'm not saying that side wasn't there. That side of free or copyright-free singing was there, but the other side was there too. And then later on, of course, so he did find a publisher. And then particularly when he began to get ill, and it was clear that the only money that he was ever going to make would be from royalties from his songs. So he had
necessity, really.
Necessity, and he had a lot of people looking out for him too.
Do you think we have any true natural successors to Woody Guthrie coming up these days at the moment?
Yeah, but who they are, I'm not sure. You know, I often get asked that when I do these presentations, and you could trot out the names of the usual suspects. You could go from Bob Dylan and see the line from Woody actually to Ramblin' Jack Elliott. It doesn't go straight from Woody to Dylan. It really goes from Woody to Ramblin' Jack Elliott to Bob Dylan, and then everyone who Dylan influenced. The majority of the songs that he wrote that we know of now, he wrote before anyone knew who he was. So in that sense, I would say that the natural successors to Woody Guthrie are probably many, and for the most part, they're anonymous. I do think of one. There's a guy named David Rovix, who I don't know if you know Dave Rovix. Yeah,
yes, I do. I went to a show of his in Bradford a couple of years ago, and I was absolutely blown away with him. He's, I don't know protest troubadour like him.
That's right.
Fantastic.
I often think of him when I think of who, if I had to single out one person, I'd say right now, operating that way, David Rovix does. He comes out of Portland, Oregon, and he does carry the torch. But I think then for every David Rovix who is phenomenal in his mission to get his music out there and for free. All of his stuff is available. You go to his website, and all the stuff is available for download for free, and he's really committed to free access and getting the songs out there. He still wants to make a living, obviously, so he tries the best he can to make a living. But I think for every Dave Rovix, there must be hundreds out there who are writing damn good, hard-hitting songs that we don't know of. They're on picket lines. They're at Occupy camps. They're who knows where they are, but they're out there. I know they're out there. So.
Well, what would you, if you have any ambition left for Woody's career? I don't know. I suppose it's a bit of an odd question. Is there anything that you would wish for his music, or any place you'd like to see it go in this centenary year?
It's quite simple. I just want to see it preserved, perpetuated, put out there as much as possible. And that's also the mission actually that his daughter Nora has. She runs the Woody Guthrie Archives and Foundation, although the archives are now moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma, so she can collapse in relief that they're no longer in her hands, because she works really hard. But about 20 years ago, she began inviting contemporary songwriters into these archives, because a lot of people don't realize there are like 3,000 of Woody Guthrie's songs. I still think there is room for folk singers to go in there too and put some of his,
You'd hope so.
I would hope so. Yeah, I'd hope so. I mean, I thought that I think no one is more entitled to go into those archives and put some of the stuff to music than Ralph McTell is. Let's be honest. Ralph McTell was a great champion of Woody Guthrie before Billy Bragg learned how to play a guitar. And I think that he certainly is one of the folks who almost by if there's any justice in the world, then Ralph McTell will be able to put some of Woody's songs to it.
Would be great for you.
I think it would be great.
Prospect.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Oh, well, thank you very much for coming here and telling us about Woody.
Thanks for having me. Neighbour?
Yes, we'll have to see more of each other.
Yeah.
But before we finish, what about Will Kaufman and your music? And what are you doing in the next near future?
It's mostly these Woody shows. That's taken over my life for now. I mean, I'm an amateur. I'm a professor by day, a professor of American literature and culture. And that scholarship takes up the majority of my efforts. I'm an amateur. I do I play fiddle as well, and I go up to sessions. I love sessions, Irish sessions and stuff. But I see myself taking these shows around for a long time, because even when the centenary is over, there'll still be room for people to learn about Woody or be reminded about Woody. And I'm beginning to write a history of the United States through protest music, and maybe I'll have a show that comes out of that as well. Historical piece that's. I love melding my musical interests with scholarship and and history. That's really important to me. So whatever I do, it'll be along that line.
Well, it's a great thing you're doing, and
Thanks
thank you very much.
Thanks
Great
for having me.
to see you, Will.
Thanks.